It is Open Line Friday. Rush Limbaugh executing assigned host duties flawlessly, zero mistakes. One other story I haven't touched on other than to allude to the fact I was going to talk about it later. And now is later. Later is now. And you may have heard about this today, that the Department of Justice Inspector General has announced that they're going to investigate what went on at that Hillary Clinton email investigation. Now, before you go, it's about to... No. The investigation is of Comey. This is the Obama DOJ, and the Inspector General works for Obama, works for Loretta Lynch. They're not investigating themselves. They're not investigating anything about Loretta Lynch getting on the plane with Bill Clinton. No. They're not explaining anything about, not going to investigate why they told the FBI no indictments. The FBI couldn't get subpoenas because the DOJ wouldn't indict. The DOJ wouldn't impanel a grand jury. The FBI was frozen out in its investigation of what went on. That's one of the reasons Comey held his press conference, because that was so abnormal. I mean, FBI directors do not detail investigations that are ending. The only reason he did, I'm convinced he wanted people to know what they had learned, but the Obama DOJ shut it down. So now it's payback time. Andy McCarthy has written extensively about this at National Review Online. Now, one of the questions that arises here is, well, wait a minute. This is just a week before Trump takes office. Why are they doing this now? Is Trump obligated to continue this investigation? And, folks, that all depends on what happens with the Inspector General. Now, the Inspector General is an interesting position. If you go back to 2001, when George Bush was sworn in, Bill Clinton, as one of his outgoing appointments, appointed a guy by the name of Fine. His name was Glenn Fine as the Inspector General at the DOJ. George W. Bush kept the guy in a show of bipartisanship. This after the Florida aftermath, the recount and all that. And George W. Bush, in an effort to show collegiality and cooperation and working across the aisle, left Mr. Fine in place. And this man harassed the Bush Department of Justice Department of Justice the entire 2 terms of the Bush administration. And he is still there. And so the question becomes, what will become of him when Trump becomes president? And it's a dicey thing, because it's going to be up to Jeff Sessions, essentially. And once Jeff Sessions is confirmed as Attorney General, they will then set about the whole business of nominating the other presidential appointees for top positions in the Department of Justice. We only know one right now, and that's Kelly Conway's husband, George Conway, who's a brilliant constitutional lawyer. He has been named Solicitor General. That means he represents the U.S. in cases tried before the Supreme Court, appeals at the Supreme Court. But besides him, we don't have any other names. Bush keeping this guy, Glenn Fine, in position. He's a tried and true leftist. He's an activist. He's a hack. You know, these inspectors general are supposed to be totally independent and unaffected by partisanship. It's not the case with this guy. So we have not had, here's the bottom, we have not had a Republican-appointed inspector general in the Justice Department since 1991, folks. George H.W. Bush is the last Republican president to put the inspector general from a Republican president in office. We've had Democrat leftist IGs ever since. And so now it's going to be up to Sessions and Trump to decide who gets the gig. And, of course, there's politics here. If they get rid of Glenn Fine, who has just started this investigation of Comey and the FBI, you remember what happened when George W. Bush fired a bunch of U.S. attorneys? That was like the left had a cow. Even though Bill Clinton, it's routine, folks. It's SOP, it's standard operating procedure. Every new president gets rid of the existing U.S. attorneys because they're political appointees, I don't care what anybody says, and replaces them with his own. And Trump is going to do that, and they're going to raise holy hell. And when we get to the inspector generals, will Trump replace this Glenn Fine guy? And if they do, it's going to be holy hell. The left will raise holy hell. I've got the little blurb here about Fine being retained by George W. Bush. It's a dicey situation. But here's something that I learned just before the program began today from a Washington lawyer that we trust. Obama is trying to move Glenn Fine over to the Defense Department the same way Clinton did, trying to keep him in office, as trying to foist him on the Trump Defense Department. Obama has nominated Glenn Fine this month to serve as the Department of Defense Inspector General. There are a handful of other nominees, too. And they're basically daring Trump to fire a guy that Obama put in 1 week before Obama leaves. And I think they're hoping that Trump does get rid of the guy, and they're going to be prepared to raise holy hell when it happens and to talk about evil partisanship and all of this. But this investigation of the FBI, this is just the left getting even. They think Comey stole the election working with the Russians. And, of course, again, just to review, nothing about the DOJ is being investigated at all. Loretta Lynch meeting with Bill Clinton, refusing to listen to what Comey said, produced in his investigation. It's more left-wing Democrat politics, as per usual. And a brief timeout. We will come back and continue in mere moments.